Comic book and manga fans, this is H. German from Sigma Comics. I'm back with another video. Today we're going to tell you who the Sigma Comics team is. All right, some of you at least have read our comics, and you don't even know who we are. Of course, you know me, but I'm going to introduce you to the team today. Now, I don't have them here, but we're going to talk about each and every member of the team, Sigma Comics. Before we do that, we're going to tell you who we are. We're Sigma Comics. We fight animal cruelty through comics. Through our series, Here Comes Calico, the ultimate defender of animals. Listen, if you love animals, you hate animal abusers, you're really going to love this series. What you're looking at right now is our website, sigmacomics.com, Justice for All. And that means all animals. And you're looking at some of our products. We have comic books, we have trade paperbacks, we have manga, we have merch, and we even have our latest trade paperback, which is called Calico Unwanted Men. You see the incredible testimonials here by some of the legendary creators of the day. And it's on Kickstarter right now. All you have to do is go to kickstarter.com and type in Calico Unwanted Men. And you're going to see this beautiful book there, Calico Unwanted Men. 176 pages of calico action. Folks, it doesn't get any better than this. Like I said, if you're an animal lover, you hate people who abuse animals. I mean, this is, it's been called the Punisher for animals, this series. I think Calico makes the Punisher look like Gandhi, frankly. That's saying something, but we're not the only ones saying it. In any case, you're going to love the series. Pick it up on Kickstarter.com. It's going to be up till June 1st, 2026. So pre-order it now before it's gone, because it comes with a lot of great goodies. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to tell you who we are, member by member. But before I do, I'm going to take a shot of the old Calico mug. Oh, yeah. I got to take another shot here. All right, a little tart, but... All right, so what you're looking at here is the Sigma Comics logo. Some of your old comic heads, really old school comic heads, are going to know this logo. All right. Robert Bell, was one of the first comic book shop owners. Okay, we're really going back a ways, okay? He started with the mail order catalog, and we're talking about going back into the 60s here. My understanding, he was the first to do it. So don't quote me on that, but that's my understanding. The man is a legend in the comic book sales business, and he fashioned this logo, obviously inspired by the Thor character, Marvel's Thor character. And you see in the insignia there on his vest, and even on his cap, that's Bob Bell. That's what those double B's stand for there. And, we reached out 6 years ago, or I should say I reached out to Bob Bell. And this man was already now retired by this time. And, I tracked down Bob Bell, and asked him, well, first told him about myself and what my vision was for the company and what we wanted to exude out there in the marketplace. And, I told him that I very much respected his independent theme of his business. Really a self-starter, doing things his own way, not really going by any rules, creating them as he went, and doing something fantastic for the comic book industry, really providing comic books in a way through mail order. A lot of times back in the day, even though we had a lot more access to comics, meaning that you can walk out your door and find them in corner stores, pharmacies, gas stations, etc. Those weren't times where, like today, where, you have, in some cases, corner stores that are 24 hours, right? So back in the day, you had to have a mail order situation, and that was Bob Bell who came in and solved that problem. And that's the kind of man Bob Bell was, and he was a steady advertiser in the Marvel magazines from the 60s all the way into the mid 80s. Okay, that's a 20-year history of delivering comics mail order. All right, so he accepted. He said, "Yeah, go ahead and take it and make it yours, and do something very special with it." And we absolutely intend to keep that promise. I certainly do. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the Sigma Comics logo, a logo with a lot of history, a lot of respect and authoritative image in comics. And that's exactly how we want to be seen. A substantive group of people who have the good hearts and really have the right mindset to put out some good, entertaining comic books. All right, so here I am. That's me, H.H. German. You know that guy. Bronx, New York, New York City, Gotham. I grew up reading comics as a kid before I could even speak English. And I learned a lot of words from comic books. And of course, the balance was Sesame Street in school. But it's not a unique story. I'm sure a bunch of kids growing up in the U.S. had a similar situation like that, especially those who were first generation like myself. And because I grew up in New York and I had access to a ton of comics, I really gravitated toward the masked heroes. I really enjoyed Spider-Man. Spider-Man was my favorite, but I also liked Daredevil. And I would have to say that if we go back to my history, I would say Frank Miller is my favorite writer. And I've been told that I write very much, in his sort of gritty city style. And that's frankly what I aspire to with this series. That's exactly what Calico is. I created Calico based on my experiences in New York, growing up in New York. I'm a former fighter from New York City, a professional. I grew up fighting, as a kid. Lots of fights, too many. But I had them. And what happens is when you fight a lot, you learn how to do it. And I grew up doing it in New York City, in the Bronx specifically. And, I got good enough that I got accepted into a boxing gym, a very good one, Morris Park Boxing Club. And I was doing this while going to art school, folks, school visual arts. That's very unique. That is, admittedly. I was the only student, from my understanding in history, that's ever gotten a sports scholarship from the School of Visual Arts. So I'm very proud of that. And I actually got it from the owner, the original owner of the school, Silas Rhodes. So that's actually something I'm very, very proud of. The man was a big fan of boxing, and he saw me fighting in one of these MMA fights when I fought on pay-per-view in an MMA fight. This is back in the UFC, the early UFC days. And anyway, the rest is history. I had a good, wonderful team of people mentoring me in that school. And, little by little, I was able to, I guess, come up with this concept here. I always had this desire to create my own comic book series. Again, a big fan of comics since I was a kid. And I'm what you call an experiential writer. I write what I know. And the words that I put on paper are words that I feel in my heart and I have experienced myself. So I have a very unique voice when I put down words on the paper, very much like a Larry Hama, who some of you might know, in fact, all of you probably could recognize from the G.I. Joe series. Larry Hama was a former Vietnam vet who actually saw action. The man had a meticulous understanding, knowledge of weaponry, specifically explosives. And he always had a love of comics as well. And when he got out, he basically did what I'm doing, which is writing about what I know and really applying these ideas, these concepts, these images that are experiences, if you will, in my imagination to paper. And hence, here comes Calico. All right, so New York City, love comics, definitely lean more towards the vigilante character types like your Daredevil, Punisher, and of course were big influences on me in creating this character. So I would say if you're a fan of, if you have not read my comics, if you've not read the Calico series, I would say if you're a fan of Frank Miller, you're definitely going to love uh, what I'm doing here with Calico. So I would also say if you like Mike Baron comics, The Punisher, the late 80s, early 90s stuff, you're really going to like this as well. In fact, I count him as a mentor. So I'm actually learning from the man. And you'll learn more about him because he's on the team here. All right, so I'm out of the way. Let's get into Javier Orabich, who's the very first interior artist for Here Comes Calico. Those of you who are reading the series, uh, remember his art. He did the first 4 issues of Here Comes Calico. He did a great job, really setting the tone for the series. I made it very clear to Javier that New York City will always be the accomplice in these scenarios with Calico. All right, so you really need to have that gritty New York rendering in your pages, because the city really has to pop through to the reader. And be specifically because a lot of comics that are based in New York City, they always love to do the skyline and Midtown and whatnot. Very few of them get into the neighborhoods around the boroughs, like your South Bronx, Astoria, Bensonhurst, and that's what we do in this series. All of these neighborhoods that I just mentioned are absolutely prominently featured in this series, and a bunch more. So this is why it was so important to work with an artist who understood architecture, that could really get the reader into what it's like walking in the streets of Bensonhurst or Dumbo, Brooklyn, right? So it was very important, and this is the criteria that I saw. In addition to having sort of a dark, gritty noir vibe to the art, I wanted someone who could really uh, uh, characterize the city and all its incredible neighborhoods as an additional character in the story. And that's something that Javier did an excellent job at in the first 4 issues. And this is a very talented individual from Barcelona, Spain. Well, originally born there, and now he's near southern Spain, near Seville. So he did a great job, and he's, part of the original team of the first 4 issues of Here Comes Calico. Really got us out to a great start. And Renato Pinto, he is probably the person that I work with most closely on the team. I mean, I work very closely with all the team members, but I mean, Renato, I'm pretty much talking to on a day-to-day basis. All right, and his work, absolutely fantastic. What a wonderful team member he is. Somebody I'm very proud of, and is really done a fantastic job with the book, and he just keeps getting better and better. Somebody really truly understands the character. Renato Pinto, from Italy, Naples originally. This is a graduate of the Academy of Fine Arts in Naples. Okay, this man studied under the legendary Vincenzo Lauria and Luca Maresca. Okay, these are legendary Italian artists, illustrators, and this is what Renato brings to the table. All right, he brings a solid illustration background, and someone who truly understands the comic book medium, a true cartoonist. And again, the great thing about Renato is he's constantly growing. All right, he's always sourcing new work, looking at what's going on, different artists, and he's a sponge, and he works very, very closely with me, and I bring him into all these cities, with our imagination, and he depicts these vibrant settings for the character, and really allows Calico and Bumble, to leap off the page and shine with his creativity. And our work is just the wonderful synergy that we have really shines through in the book. And I'm very proud of Renato, like I said. Those of you who are familiar with the Here Comes Calico series, you know that we're known for this gritty sort of noir style. And, Renato's line work is just absolutely gorgeous. I was at one of these conventions, and I see Simon Bisley, of course, the legendary Simon Bisley, artist on Lobo Comics from DC, and I think he did some Judge Dredd, if I'm not mistaken. But I showed him the book one time, and I was sort of joking with him about the detail, right? I said, of course, I was a big fan of Simon Bisley on Lobo, and I was talking to him about the detail and about how maybe we can get Renato to sort of lean more into this. And Simon looked at the book. This was issue 5 of Here Comes Calico. He looked at it. He's like, who's this? This is Renato. What's his name? Renato Pinto. He said, don't listen to this guy. He's talking about me. Don't listen to this guy. He's like, your work is wonderful. And I got a kick out of that. Here I am thinking, maybe he can get Renato, into a little more detail concepts. And he really actually enjoyed what Renato was doing. And I do agree. I mean, Renato is just the work. If you look at the work, I mean, it was already gorgeous in issue 5, which is when Renato came on. Issue 5 of Here Comes Calico. But you look at the work there, and you look at what he did in Morality Play, just really beautiful stuff. And wait till you guys get a hold of Calico Unwanted Men. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful noir. It's just black inks, just I've always been a big fan of David Mazzucchelli, but to be honest with you, as a kid, early on, I was more of a fan of Todd McFarlane, right? I wouldn't have even looked at Mazzucchelli's work twice back then. I really, really enjoyed the Todd McFarlane, outlandish designs and all that. And he really did a great thing for comics back in the, the 80s and 90s. But to see the clean line and these solid black silhouettes, just this beautiful noir work that really sort of, oh man, it's quintessential. It's classic New York. And that's exactly what I wanted for Calico. And that's exactly what Renato's delivering. And boy, he is not disappointing. Folks, seriously, everybody watching this, you need to get Calico Unwanted Men. Get it on Kickstarter. You're going to hear me talk about this again throughout the video. But Renato Pinto, again, great stuff. Very proud of this guy. Itch Sanori. We call him Itchy. Itchy is our colorist, and he is absolutely fantastic. He's from Indonesia. Does an absolutely great job. This is a veteran colorist. You've seen his work on lots of crowdfunding projects. And man, Itchy delivers. He's really top notch. And going into Calico Unwanted Men, we did have a colorist, which was Daniel Grimaldi in the first trade paperback Street Math. It was very vibrant. And we did that because we had a very specific paper that we were using that really Grimaldi did a great job with. But if you look at Morality Play and Unwanted Men, the last 2 books, Itchy has been the colorist on those books, and they really adopt the colors of New York. This sort of, drab, moody, noir look to the books, and that's all Itchy. I mean, Itchy has done. The guy really pays attention. We sat down and obviously remotely, and we discussed the color themes for Calico Unwanted Men. And those of you who are familiar with the Frank Miller, Dave Mazzucchelli project called Batman Year One, which I think is the best Batman story ever told, that was the visual sort of theme that I was looking for Calico Unwanted Men. All right, so really love that book. Definitely my favorite Batman story, Batman Year One. It has this, I wouldn't call it pastel, but it has a sort of pastel-like quality to it. I really loved what, I'm not sure who the colorist was on Batman Court of Owls. But that was really what we were going for with Morality Play. If you look at the palette of Morality Play and just oppose that with Unwanted Men, when you get it in your hands, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Much less complex, the latter, Calico Unwanted Men. The color tones are very sort of light and gradual, and I think it's a wonderful combination to have what's going on the page with Renato's incredibly improving black lines, solid blacks and silhouettes, juxtaposed with Itchy's beautiful tones, color tones. Oh, guys, get Calico Unwanted Men. I'm telling you, fantastic stuff. Who's next? Garnabiel. When the artist has one name, you know he's going to be good. All right. Of course, we're talking about our unique, incredibly talented cover artist Garnabiel. Real name is Sebastian Escobar. From Colombia, no relation. Listen, the man is super talented. We all call him Garnabiel. He's now in Spain. That's where he lives with his family. Incredible background here. This man is self-taught. Okay, you've seen the covers. Okay, this guy's batting 1,000. All right, every single ball you pitch to him goes right out the stadium. He doesn't even hit it into the bleachers. He hits it out into the water, right into the parking lot. That's Garnabiel. The covers are absolutely outrageous. Every single one of them is incredible. Each one better than the next. The man has, again, self-taught. What a well-rounded background this guy has. Has a wonderful background in hip-hop music and performance. And he also is a creator. He created his own anatomy book called Garnabiel Anatomy Perspectives. I mean, if you look at his work, you see what we're talking about. The man understands anatomy. Unbelievable. Super proud of Garnabiel. And again, another artist that just continues to improve. Absolutely incredible stuff. Pretty much has done every single cover that we've had in the series except for Morality Play, which was done by the legendary Klaus Janson. Of course, Frank Miller's partner on legendary seminal titles like Batman, Dark Knight Returns, and of course the saga, the Elektra saga, Daredevil. Wonderful creator, Klaus Janson. But it was one cover. I don't want to put him, as the core team here. Just a wonderful mentor that has helped me with the Calico character. So there's Garnabiel, and you're going to see him again in upcoming Calico covers, and you certainly are seeing him in Calico Unwanted Men. He is the artist on the cover for Calico Unwanted Men, which you're going to see at the end of this video again. And of course, my mentor, Mike Baron, legendary two-time Eisner Award winner here. You know him from The Punisher. I mean, he pretty much put Punisher on the map. I mean, Jerry Conway, rest his soul, rest in peace, created the character back in the mid-'70s. But, the character really wasn't used maybe a couple times there. There was the short mini series there. I believe it was Carl Potts that put together a team of Steve Grant and Mike Zeck to do the mini series. And once it was clear to the Marvel team that this was going to be a success, Carl Potts assembled the Unlimited team, which was Mike Baron and Klaus Janson. And there's that name again, Klaus Janson. Boy, what a thing they did for the Punisher. What they did was they put him on the map, and they really created the seminal Punisher and established it for all of the writers that came after them. Writers like your Chuck Dixon, writers like your what's the other guy's name? There's a bunch of them there. I'm forgetting the British guy that did a good job in the 2000s. Anyway, the bottom line is there's the man right there. Man's got enormous bona fides, comic book bona fides. Of course, writer as well in The Flash, self-published creator, and really an innovator in the indie space going back to the 80s with his indie title Nexus. Okay, this is the comic book that the creators were reading back in the 80s and being inspired. And what a job they did, they meaning Mike Baron and Steve Rude, on the Nexus title there. And of course the Badger. And frankly, the Badger title was really the way that I hooked up with Mike, because people were telling me that the Punisher, they were getting Badger vibes from the Punisher. And of course I inquired about the Badger because truthfully I'd never heard of the Badger because I really wasn't collecting indie comics as a kid. I was reading Punisher, and that's where I remembered the name by Mike Baron when we met and he's been a wonderful mentor for me since then. He's really been the editor on the series from about issue 5. So he's been really part of the team in a mentoring capacity, and now editing all the chapters that come out. So he's really the editor of the book, and he's got a book, by the way, right now. It's called Bronze Star. He's doing that with the legendary Pat Broderick. And you're going to find Bronze Star 2 right now on Kickstarter. You can get that on Kickstarter.com. Just type in Bronze Star 2. You'll be able to pick that up on pre-orders. And, Mike has a website as well, Baron. What is it called? Oh, yes, BaronComics.com. If you go to, I don't know if it's BaronComics.com or .net, but try them both. And there you'll be able to see all those comics there. All right. And then finally, Casey Gehrer. You're going to see her in conventions all across the country with yours truly. We are a fantastic team, and there's no one I'd rather do it with. It's Casey getting it done for Here Comes Calico. And, you're going to see Casey again all across the country along with me. We are the convention team, but Casey doesn't just work on the convention scene. She also works on the creative team in an editorial and writing capacity. So you're going to see an editorial credit for Calico Unwanted Men. Why? Because she has those bona fides as well. She's also a writer on Green Eye Bandito, which is the Here Comes Calico prequel. So look out for that. If you don't have the prequel, folks, what are you doing? You need to get it. You can get it right now at sigmacomics.com, or you could pick it up at one of the conventions. All right, Casey does a fantastic job, and she's an all-around team member at Sigma Comics, and we are very proud to have her on the team. But aside from that, she's also a huge animal lover, like all of our team members are. But she actually works in dog training and dog care. She volunteers with lots of animal shelters, supports many of the local organic farms, and that's really the mission for her, is really mine. And, both of us are animal rights activists, and, she actually works in with the animals. So very proud of Casey as well, and her efforts at Sigma Comics. And all these team members here, this is our core team. These are the people who regularly contribute to our books, creating them, putting them out there. And again, I'm proud of everybody here. And this is Sigma Comics, folks. If you see these people on the road, please shake their hands, say hello, talk to them about our focus, animal rights, fighting animal cruelty through comics, because that is what we're all about, folks. You've just met our team. If you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll definitely answer them. But in the meantime, keep on fighting for animals.